Hello and welcome to our next online music lesson. In our lesson today, we're going to be doing lots of exciting activities which you're going to need some different resources for. But part of the lesson today is going to be finding those resources, so you don't need anything yet other than a piece of paper or an exercise book and something to write with, a pen or pencil. It doesn't need to be important, it can just be something scrap to use to plan your ideas as you compose something that we're going to be doing as part of our lesson today. So, pause the video now, make sure that you've got that and you're ready, and let's start when you've got all of your things. Fantastic. So, remember, we've been looking at the Elgar variations. Elgar variations have been a really exciting way for us to find out about the composer Elgar and his pieces, the variations. Do you remember what the variations are and what they're about? So, the variations are about Elgar's friends, or people that Elgar knew. And each one, we've said last lesson, was like a musical selfie. Each piece, each small variation, showed one person that he knew, and he tried to show things that they did or characteristics of those persons in the music that he composed. So we listened to 3 interesting different variations, and we tried to imagine what that person looked like or what that person was like. Some words to describe their personality or the kinds of things that they did for a job or in their lives. Can you remember? One of those was a dog. Let's have a listen to the dog variation theme one more time. Here we go. So, in that piece, we had some different ideas of what Elgar thought the dogs were doing. The dog that we met had special things that he liked to do. When you listen to that music, can you hear anything that you think Elgar is trying to represent? There's 3 main ideas in the piece. Let's have a listen again because it's only short. Let's see if you can have a listen and see if you can think about the 3 things that Elgar is trying to represent. Remember, this variation is about a dog. So they're dog-like things. What do dogs do and what are we trying to represent? Let's have a listen. Great, pause the video now for just 1 minute and see if you can think of what you think the 3 different things that Elgar is trying to represent are. If you're watching this video with other people, maybe you can discuss together. If you're watching this video on your own, then have a minute and stop and think and then come back when you're ready. Off you go. So hopefully you had some exciting ideas of what was happening in that piece. Let me tell you the 3 answers. Hopefully you got some of them. So, there's 3 things that Elgar's musical dog is having here in the piece. We have scampering, Scampering is when the dog is really excited and goes all the way around, running around, coming back and forth and getting really excited. Something that dogs do maybe when you get a ball or a treat or something like that. Another thing is chomping. When you give a dog a bone or its food, it eats. It doesn't have any manners. It eats really, really loud and you can hear its chomping sounds. And panting. So we all know what a dog sounds like when it pants. It's after it's been exercising or running around lots or gone on a big walk. They make a panting sound to try and get as much oxygen into them as possible. So let's see, how did Algar represent these different ideas? Let's have a think. So let me show you this rhythm. This is the rhythm that Algar used for panting because he thought this kind of repetition of this rhythm sounded a little bit like panting. Can you figure out, using the notation, I'm going to give you 10 seconds, see if you can have a look at how does this rhythm go. Give it a clap out the rhythm if you can. 10 seconds. Fantastic. So, let's have a look. We've got long, short, short, long, short, short, or tea, coffee, coffee. See if you can have a go looking at this one. So, this one, I would like you to try clapping on your knees. So going long, short, short, long, short, short. And you can sound, if we go quite quickly, it sounds like a Now remember, it's not going to sound exactly like a dog panting, but we're trying to put similar sounds together to make representations. It's like in English when you use personification or a metaphor or something like that. It gives us the idea, but it's not exactly like it. So let's try it together. Going long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long. Ready? Off we go. Fantastic. Well done. Have a little listen to the variation one final time. Now that I've shown you the panting, see if you can identify where the panting is, and see if you can think about anything that makes the scampering, the quick running around, or the chomping of the food all together. See if you can think what is used to represent these. Off you go. Fantastic. Take a minute to see if you can stop and think. If you're watching with someone else, have a discussion. Could you spot or identify the long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short rhythm? And could you identify any ideas for what made the scampering sound or the chomping sound? Fantastic. So, let's have a listen. The scampering sound, Algar uses lots of notes really quickly after each other, going from high to low. Sounds like this. Great, so that fast sequence of notes helps us to imagine a dog running around, and it makes us feel really excited, just like the dog is when they're excited and scampering around. The chomping, did you have any ideas for the chomping? The chomping is when we have a big, loud chord. Now, a chord is a group of notes played together at the same time. Lots of different instruments play one big, loud chord at different moments to symbolise a big chomping or crashing sound. Fantastic. So, Now we're going to have a look at trying to invent our own variation and coming up with 3 ideas that would be our main ideas or our motifs in our piece. So, in a second, I'm going to ask you to pause for about 5 minutes to think of a couple of different people that you might like to represent and 3 things that they do. Just like the dog one had 3 motifs, each person that we're going to choose is going to have 3 motifs of their own. So, I'll show you. I've chosen the Queen. We all know the Queen. So, the Queen, I've chosen 3 things that we would find the Queen doing or make us think of the Queen. So, the Queen does a lot of visits normally outside of COVID-19, and she shakes hands when she meets people lots and lots and lots. So, a big part of her job as she meets people is shaking hands. We also always see her do her wave, her fancy wave, but it's still a wave, and it's a very popular symbol of the Queen that makes us think of the Queen, especially her wave like this. I hope that you're all perfect at the Queen's wave. Last but not least, she always looks happy, kind of. She has a big, important role for us to look up to. So I've put that she looks happy or looks engaged as one of my ideas for a motif. So pause the video now. You can think of a couple of different ideas if you want to make a couple of variations, but I'd like you to choose one that's the most important. But spend 5 minutes. If you manage to think of something super quickly, then see how many you can come up with, because maybe later on in the project we can continue to come up with some ideas for different ones and see which ones are the most exciting. Just like Elgar did lots of different variations with different people that inspired him. So stop the video now and see if you can have a think of one person, a person that we all would probably know, and 3 things. Remember, all 3 things need to be nice things that you're saying about the person. So make sure that they're nice things and that you pick one person that everybody would know and be able to identify. Fantastic. Okay, welcome back. So, I have to think about, well, I'm going to need your help to think about some different ways to develop my 3 ideas. So, have a think. We want to create 3 different ideas, motifs, musical motifs, using our musical minds. We're going to try and make at least one of them using homemade instruments we find in our house, or instruments that we might already have in our house, and then our other 2 we're going to use our imagination. Pretend that you had any instrument and you were able to play it, or a group of instruments, a group of players. What would you do to make that musical idea? I need your help to try and figure out what we could do for the Queen before we have a look at your one. So, let's have a look. The first one, waves. Could you have a think, what would we symbolise for waves? When the Queen waves, it's up in the air, and it's to signify that she's saying hello to people, but it's when she's in a big public space with lots of things happening. Often, it's a celebration or a big spectacle as everyone is watching the Queen. What do you think we could do? Take 30 seconds, see if you can come up with a couple of ideas. Ten seconds left. What ideas can you come up with? Okay, so a few ideas I had. We could think of a violin maybe, because a violin makes a high-pitched, exciting sound, playing maybe a couple of different notes, symbolising the different times she waves her hand up and down, so like up and down notes perhaps. But the idea that I think I like the most is a shaking. So my tambourine, I'm going to have short, sharp, quick shakes of the tambourine to show like it's up in the air and it's exciting. Have a listen. Fantastic. So that's going to be my waving motif. Now, the one that I think I can do using homemade instruments is the shaking of hands. Can you think of shaking hands? What could I possibly do? Take 10 seconds. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to use a homemade instrument or a homemade item that looks or sounds a bit like a drum. And when you shake hands with someone, you often shake up and down a couple of times. So I'm going to do 3 short hits on the drum to symbolise shake, shake, shake. Have a listen. Can you clap that motif with me? 1, 2, 3 with me. Off we go. Again. One more time. Fantastic. That's going to be one of my motifs there. Last but not least, looking happy. What do you think I could do with that? Looking happy, I think I'm going to have the opposite of the scampering that Elgar used in his dog-themed variation. So I'm going to get higher and higher, a quick succession of notes. So a sequence where I've got lots and lots of notes all after each other, like a brrrring, makes us feel happy and excited like something's happened. And I'd use lots of exciting instruments like flute, violin, harp perhaps. So those are my 3 ideas of my 3 different motifs. So what I'd like you to do is stop for a good amount of time, let's say 7 minutes, just over 5 minutes, so 7 minutes, to have a think. That gives you 2 and a bit minutes per one. I'd like you to stop and think of lots of different ideas that you could have, and then choose your favourite idea. Choose the favourite idea of what you think would be the most exciting. One of them, you need to use one of your home instruments that we've been using over this project and a previous project, where we've been looking at our house for sound sources, like my box here that I'm using as a drum, or my water bottle that I use as a kind of bell-like sound. So you need to use one where you can actually physically hear the sound and practice performing it. And then choose 2. You can do more if you want to, but your other 2, you can use your imagination. But think about different options and then come to one decision on what you think is the best way of symbolising your motif. Once you've done, write a short little description next to each of the 3 ones to help us when we come back to this next time. Then you can keep your scrap piece of paper of your planning later for when we try to make some variations later in the project. So, pause the video now for 7 to 10 minutes, experiment using at least 1 homemade instrument, come up with some ideas for your other 2 motifs, come up with lots of ideas, choose your favourite ones, and then write the favourite one for each of your different ideas on your sheet for the person that you've chosen, not the queen, your person. Fantastic, welcome back. So, hopefully you had some time now to choose what you could do for your 3 different variations and your 3 different motifs in part of your piece describing someone that you know. So, in our lesson, we're going to have a look next time at putting these together to make a piece and what other ideas we could add to make us think of other musical selfies. For now though, have a very good week and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.